Hello, I'm Joonas. I make music as Forces. I'm from Helsinki, Finland. Yeah. I was like 16, 15, 16, and I got my computer and started to make music with that. Like it was just Fruity Loops back then, like FL Studio or Fruity Loops back then. And that was my first kind of time for making music. But then I found out this like electronic labels like Warp and like Auditory and Voice of Canada, and I started to buy better computer and like synthesizers. There was a period of time that I was really into kind of distorted kind of techno kind of thing, like this consumer guy from States. I liked his music and it was kind of brutal kind of techno kind of thing, like almost distortion, a lot of distortion. So I had like a hardware drum machines and like modular synthesizer for like tweaking strange sounds. And then I got into this fine art academy in Helsinki, and I started to make more like my art stuff. And then I had courses in Maximus P in the Fine Art Academy, and I realized that it's a really powerful kind of way for making installations and like music. Around 2013 or 14, I was getting really bored with the kind of hardware techno scene and started to just use computer. First I used the Maximus P for making like Max for Life kind of things. Then I found out this program called Supercollider, and there was a course in Sibelius Academy, that's the music conservatory in Helsinki. So I started to investigate the granular kind of synthesis processes. I was taking the course at the same time and making kind of my own experiments in the granular synthesis thing in Supercollider. And that was the basis of my first record, this Plastisphere in Genot Center. It was all one take jams, but I was like composing it first in Supercollider, like I tested codes and so I basically spent a lot of time in the Supercollider mailing list or like in the documents, because people are documenting it also like kind of a manual for Supercollider, and you can test like different stuff. There's a couple of people who are in the university or academia and that are super good making like different, they are called quarks. They're kind of plugins for Supercollider, like, and then you can just download it and then you can check the README or manual, like, oh, I can use this this way, and then I kind of start like think about like how can I use it like in my own way, like how can I misuse it, or like Supercollider is also, when you learn the basics, it's quite easy to learn like new stuff just by like checking the help files and trying things out. One of the most powerful things is this pattern library. The pattern library is super deep to make experimental ways to kind of mix sequences. You have like random patterns, and then you have kind of stochastic patterns. You can mix like randomness. You can get probabilities like 80% of time this happens and 70% of time this happens. I like to make that because my music is quite somewhat beat-based, but like rhythms, but kind of unsteady rhythms. But I also use it for like making strange kind of arpeggios and like strange kind of tonal kind of things, and like you can use it in many different kind of things. My new record, it has like glitches kind of thing, extreme time shifts or time stretches. I've been more active in the Tidal Cycles community because I've been documenting the Tidal Cycles, because Tidal Cycles is a different program made by this Alex McLean, who is kind of a father of this algorave scene in a way in UK. Because I have this Supercollider background, because Tidal Cycles is based on Supercollider. So I made this kind of lists of all the effects that are possible in Tidal cycles. I really like the communities in both Tidal cycles and Supercollider. I like it that's a learning process all the time, so it makes me like keeps it fresh somehow. Like when I'm building records, I start to think about the kind of themes. Even though there are sometimes like jams that I'm like doing, it's not totally improvised because it's quite hard to be like totally improvising with code, because then I would have been writing everything from scratch, and that's quite difficult. It's a kind of intuitive process. In the new record, there's also at least 3 tracks that are just like push record and play the code, and that's it. So it's just like one take thing. It doesn't have to do anything else because the code itself is quite complex. Every track doesn't have to be the same method. Like I don't want to be like rigid in the like process. Although I like Mark Fell and like Ryan Trenner and people like that have quite like specific kind of systems. I don't like that much formality. I'm more into like messiness and trying things out. Yeah. Okay. I use every source material for the Plastisphere record was like I went to the library and then I borrowed every Ibiza trance collection that I found. I was thinking like plasticity, like plastic as a material, because the record is called Plastisphere and it was connected to this in the ocean. At the moment there's new forms of creatures, like tiny micro creatures that have been evolving that eats plastic in the ocean because of there's so much of plastic. And there's this it's called the Great Pacific Vortex. It's this huge vortex of like debris and plastic in the Pacific Ocean, and it's filled with plastics, and birds and fish are dying there, and it's like a completely eco hazard thing. Because I feel like Ibiza trance is a kind of plastic music in a way. It's like really formalized, and I wanted to use this kind of idea of plasticity and my code to build a kind of a new form of being. Like my code is kind of transforming or like evolving from the plastic that is the Ibiza trance to form this new kind of thing. I have this fine art background, so I believe that basically everything is political, so why isn't music political? So everything I'm doing, like even though it's like I'm not always using like environmental sounds or whatever, but I still can like in my mind kind of connect things like easily to these different like discourses or like different topics. And the Dynamics record was also, it's mostly Skrillex actually, just Skrillex samples. I was thinking these robots of this Boston Dynamics company they are like subcontractor for the US military, and they are building basically these huge robots like for the army. Now they're just like clunky robots, like barely walking, and they look quite funny, and they're quite far from like Terminator. It's difficult to say like how Skrillex is related to this Boston Dynamics. It isn't really, but I was kind of thinking like robot rave music when I was recording it, like kind of rave songs for the Boston Dynamics robots. It must be connected to emotions also, because I have been thinking like I'm fairly happy person, but then like my music is kind of a maybe it's the same way when I started to make noise in 10 or 14 years ago. That it must be some kind of outlet of different emotion at the same time. Even though I have this, of course, I have these ideas, but I don't feel it's because it's loud and it's pretty hectic, but it's not like it's not brutal. I don't think it's brutal. Maybe it is. Maybe it's somewhat brutal, but it's not meant to be a bit like that. You have to be like feeling bad when you're listening it. I don't want to be that hopeless, but it's also sometimes I feel a bit hopeless of the political situations. And even though there's a pocket of like good things happening almost everywhere, like people are more all the time more aware of stuff. But then there, if you think about the global, like in the Australia at the moment, that it's difficult to be super hopeful sometimes. And I guess it's connected to that. But in the new record, I still like feel that we need hope. But then maybe music could be also sometimes hopeless.
So maybe the fact that you're extreme is trying to show or represent what you feel about society.
Yeah.
The fact that you deserve extreme music because it's extreme times.
Yeah, I think so. That's one way to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. When I check what people are like doing in the live code community, there's artists that I really like Reading Bell and my friend Daniel Carlson from Sweden, and then Mats Kjellgaard, who is a Supercollider wizard from Oslo, that are doing like a really like radical stuff. But I think the live coding it's relatively young, the scene, and people maybe haven't found their own voices. So I also really would like more diversity, because you can make techno patterns that are a bit like Euclidic or Euclidean rhythms and stuff like that, but it is pretty straightforward. For me, the rhythms are like more like mutations. I want to really more like really kind of somehow trying to kind of destroy it in some sense. So I think like these tools that we have, these Tidal cycles and Supercollider, is super like good for like really like experimenting like different kind of things. And also, why not maximum speed? You can really like do whatever, like what Audacre is doing at maximum speed is like huge. Like they must have like massive patches. You could make like total harsh noise with Tidal cycles, but I have never seen people doing it. You could write your own sound modules in Supercollider and then control it from Tidal cycles, and that's also quite interesting way to use it. And people haven't really done that much, but I'm really hopeful that the scene will be continuing and like people will be trying new stuff. I think in UK there's a lot of this algorithm kind of parties, and people maybe are pushing the boundaries there. Like I'm really glad about like international community. Yeah.
Okay.
You shake my undertone, you move, I shift my own. You shake my undertone, you move, I shift my own.